Welcome. I'm Alice Alicia Jones, and this is a continuation of Reiki 3. And what we're going to be talking about today is more techniques for balancing and cleansing the aura. This is a section of the Reiki 3 that is very, very important, very easy to follow because most of you will recognize that you're actually doing a lot of what is recommended. And it's not going to be that difficult for you to do it, do these same items, but do them consciously. And in doing them consciously, you will then effect the what it is that you're after, which is to cleanse the aura. I'm going to do something a little bit different than what's in my book. I'm going to go backwards in the techniques because the ones, how it starts with my books is giving and receiving Reiki treatments. Um, but sometimes I rush through the last portions. So I want to give the last portions a little bit of attention and have, because they're very, very important in the general scheme of things. The first one that shows up as a technique is having respect for all life. And when I say all life, effectively, I mean all life. To the point where if something invades your house that doesn't belong there, like mice, like crickets, like a baby snake, hopefully a baby, um, or a gnat, a hornet, whatever, that instead of killing it, that you help escort it outside. I know that there are times where I've had to effectively take things that, fortunately, were kind of difficult to capture. Um, Mice, unfortunately, have never been able to survive. So, what I've done with mice is I have told the deva of the mice that they have 24 hours to get out of the home or they will be killed. When it comes to ants, I'm a little bit less forgiving. When I have an ant invasion, I tell the deva of the ants that I that they have 15 minutes to get out or they will be killed, that they will be sprayed. Because if I have an invasion of ants, they're usually quite, I have hundreds of them, if not several hundreds, thousands. So anyway, I do make it very clear to them that they do not belong in my home, and I ask that the deva, the architect of the form, take them out. And I would say about 50% of the time they're gone. So you can use that technique. Second thing on cleansing the aura is to have a healthy diet, practicing good nutrition. We're very, very fortunate because today nutrition is such an important topic. Almost every single argument that is out there works with us to let us know that nutrition is a choice. You do not have to stay addicted to what it was that kept you bound up before. You have a sugar addiction, there are ways to satisfy it. There are certain fruits, for example, figs, dates, that are extremely high in sugar content, but yet are not bad for you because they're not the fructose sugar, the high fructose corn syrup that is present in so many things. I know that when I recognized that once a year I wanted to go on a cleansing diet, and I opted to do the Whole30 diet, which is, but using it not as a diet, using it as a cleanse. One of the things I had to do was to read labels. And because I was not allowed to ingest any chemicals whatsoever, I was not allowed to have um, any kind of sugar. So when I started to read the labels of what was in my pantry, I ended up with probably 2 items in my pantry that I could consume directly the way that it was. Because if there wasn't sugar in it, there absolutely was a chemical, there was a preservative, and that was a no-no. So I ended up, um, recognizing from now on just to be conscious of where sugar shows up, where chemicals show up. Because the rest of the year, the 11 months that I don't do Whole30, I also do want to maximize my energy, and I want to feel good, and therefore, this is has been the best way to do it. Another item, the third item, is walking in nature. Effectively, you walk outside your door, you're in nature. We're very fortunate. We live in Virginia. And Virginia is very, very green. Even the cities have parks. Every single street, practically, that you walk on, even the city streets, have trees on them. The Potomac River is very close by. We're not that far from greenery, no matter where we go. We have, I think, a total of about 10 lakes. Some of them are larger, some of them are smaller. But there's bike trails, there's walking paths, um, there's the C&O canal that's not that far away. There's magnificent neighborhoods where the trees have been kept, and they the builders were just had so much foresight that they didn't chop everything down. This was one of the reasons my husband agreed to live in the subdivision we live in, which is South Run, because when 30 years ago they did clear the trees off the front part of the lot, but they kept all the trees around the side and the back. And so we were coming from an acre of land, and in his estimation, scaling down by moving to a half acre. But fortunately, our subdivision has a total of 532 homes on 532 acres total. So, and our subdivision adjoins Burke Lake. So we are right next to the Burke Lake paths, the biking paths, the trails. Take every single advantage of what you have outside your front door. Do not think you have to go far away. If it means a lunch break, that you can shorten the lunch and shorten the time that you're eating and taking a 5 or 10 minute walk outside, do it. Because most of the time, even the office buildings in Virginia, at least, are rimmed with flowers. So, besides being able to look up at the greenery and the flowers, you get to look up at the sky. Even 10 minutes of sun on your face is beneficial because that's a source of vitamin D. So you are effectively cleansing your aura by your surroundings, which is something people forget about. The greenery, everything that's green is going to affect your heart. Everything that's pink is going to affect your heart. So, especially in the springtime when we have so many pink cherry blossoms, we're very, very fortunate. And we generally try to at least go around the tidal basin one time, um, if not every year, every other year. but I have friends that religiously don't miss it, even if they have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. To them, it's just so important to see that. Very interesting about our pink cherry blossoms. When the young woman who became my daughter in law, when she first came to Virginia, and during our cherry blossom season, the first statement, and when she saw them, she goes, "But where's the pink?" And I said, "Well, they are pink. They're a very light pink." And she goes, "No, they're not. They're white." Because she had lived for 2 years in Japan, and s- she was used to the Japanese pink cherry blossoms that are a vibrant pink, almost close to a carnation pink. And so, but anyway, for us, we're thrilled to have what we have. Um, Mountains, you don't have to be a mountain climber to appreciate the mountains. Again, we're very close to Skyline Drive. We have within an hour, we can actually be on a highway that takes us across the top of the mountains. The Appalachian Trail literally goes from, I believe it ends in Georgia, but it starts in Maine. And so it has, again, no matter where you are in this state, you're not that far from the Appalachians. Then Pennsylvania is filled with mountains. West Virginia is filled with mountains. Um, so you always have an opportunity to be in an elevated position. The Rockies, the first time I know I flew over them, it just seemed so exciting to see all this snow because it was early. I mean, Rockies, the first time it wasn't in the, it wasn't in the uh, early part of the year, but it was early summer, but yet there was snow on the top of the Rockies. So I was able to just look outside my window and look down and just glory in the fact that they're they were tall enough to be snow covered. The oceans, again, you have to live on the East Coast or on the West Coast. Virginia's right next to the East Coast. So we're very, very fortunate to have that. I think this is one of the reasons why retirees navigate to Florida is water is never that far away. And water has a very soothing, a very calming effect. The other benefit to water is the fact that there's an extra ion in the air, and that extra ion helps you feel better. The same thing with the forests. When you're walking under pine trees, there's an extra ion, and that absolutely does make you feel better. So I do encourage you to at least daily acknowledge the Mother Nature. I know people are very ambitious. They go to work when it's blackout. They come home when it's blackout. They never venture outside. So at least try 10 or 15 minutes during your lunch hour. The next step in cleansing the aura is exercising. Exercising does not have to mean a gym membership, does not have to mean fancy equipment. The equipment that you can best utilize is in your own body, your two legs and your arms. You can swing your arms as you walk across the terrain, whatever terrain that is. Flatter terrain is better than unflat terrain, but if unflat terrain is the only thing that you have, that's okay too. Please take advantage of what's out there that is available that's free because so many times we feel that unless we have either fancy clothes or fancy equipment at our disposal, we can't we can't exercise. Everybody can walk, even if you have to start slowly. And by slowly I mean that if it means that all you can manage is to walk to the end of your driveway to get to the mail, the next day walk 2 lanes. The next day walk 3 lanes. The day after that walk 4 lanes. Takes you a couple weeks to get to that. That's okay too. A lot of people have stairs. You can walk up and down the stairs. I do know that climbing stairs will help strengthen you. There One of my clients once was given a prescription by her doctor to walk up and down her stairs 10 times each day. Well, obviously, she couldn't do it to begin with. She had to build up to that. That is important. Do not strain yourself. Not necessary. But you can walk up and down a flight of stairs if you take it slow enough. Eventually, you will find that you can walk up 2 flights, or do it twice, or 3 times, or 4 times, or 5 times till you get to 10 times. So please do know that it is possible. Exercising 3 times a week, an hour for each time, will have your body feel more energetic, more expansive, and there will be a cleansing effect, which just makes you feel better. And that is the cleansing effect from cleaning your aura. So please do know that it is absolutely imperative that you do exercise. Your bodies were meant to move. Your bodies were not meant to be sedate all the time. Even I read a government issue about 2 weeks ago that said something to the effect of that the average life expectancy now that the government feels should be well over 100 years, somewhere in the neighborhood of 126 years. My understanding is through the metaphysical literature that I've read, is that our average life expectancy in the 70s is half of what our bodies are designed for. We should have a life expectancy of about 149 years. Well, nobody wants to live 149 years if you're dragging your body through life. So, this is one of the vibrant ways that you can do it. Um, Bicycle, if that appeals to you. Um, I tried that once in Europe, was not prepared for it, and I was very young at the time. I think I was 21, 22. Um, and it was one of the worst experiences of my life. But for those enthusiasts that are out there, it's wonderful. They do love to bicycle. The next way to cleanse your aura is to meditate. Too many people have tried to meditate and have quit because they did not feel that they were successful. They did not feel they could calm their mind down. They did not feel that they could get any state of peace, harmony, relaxation. Meditation can start with a technique called contemplation. Contemplation is simply staring at something for a period of time. You can start with 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. You can use something complex, like a flower, or you can use something very simple, like a match head. So, either way, it's going to work. The whole thing is the thing that I recommend that you do when you start to meditate is to simply count your breath. Give yourself an opportunity. Set the timer. Say, set it, and you can set the timer on your phone. You can set it on a stove in the kitchen. You can set it on a little timer that you buy at the kitchen store. Set the timer for 5 minutes and just try for 5 minutes to pay attention to you and your breath, the number of seconds that it takes you to inhale. Try for 4. Inhale to the count of 4, exhale to the count of 4. Inhale to the count of 4, exhale to the count of 4. Inhale to the count of 4, exhale to the count of 4. This is going to help you start to relax. This is going to help you give your body a chance to bring a sense of calm and peace. And it's that calm and peace that you need to start to make the sensation of meditation feel like a success in your lexicon. Also, when you meditate, you can use self hypnosis techniques. One of the ways of doing a self hypnosis technique is to start with the number 10, count down to 9, to 8, to 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See yourself standing in front of a door. See a big brass knob as that door handle. Turn the knob, open the door, go through the door. Just look around. What's in the room you have just entered? The first time that I did this, I recognized my room was circular. My room was white, and my room also was, it looked like, on the edge of the Mediterranean Sea, because for every opening that I saw, and there were some at the end of the room, a door, another, and a window. It was a brilliant Caribbean blue, and it was also the color of the Adriatic Sea, which uh, is around Greece. So and then when I was telling my sister about my experience, my sister Krisha, she said, "Oh my God, that's the same room I go to." So I feel that somehow or other, we might have been together in a lifetime in a temple that had this identical room, because we ended up in the same room during this particular meditation technique. I do know that the first meditation instructor that I had, James Green, Dr. James Green, magnificent man, was given a directive by spirit to teach meditation as his third career. Absolutely floored him, because he had already had 2 careers, 2 very successful careers. He had been in the service for 20 years or 25 years, and had also been as a college instructor for 20 years. He thought, and rightfully so, that he deserved the rest. But Spirit had another job for him and asked him to be a meditation instructor. And it was during the time that I spent the weekend with him, he gave us 34 different meditation techniques. I am going to cover meditation in another one of these Facebook live programs, but for right now, just know that of the 34 techniques, during the time that I was with him and the other, I believe there was about 6 of us, 7 of us students, that was the first time that I actually saw an aura. So for me, it was very, very exciting because up to that point, um, I had not seen an aura. So I was absolutely thrilled. I knew what I was looking at was something I had never seen before. And I was given the gift of seeing an aura just for the fact that I was willing to take 3 days out of my life and go to meditation class. The next technique is practicing visualization. Visualization, basically, another name for visualization is daydreaming. Every single child knows daydreaming. You've done it. One of the places that I don't think I daydreamed in school, but I absolutely know that I daydreamed in church. We would go to church every Sunday, and the repetitiousness of the homily, the gospel that was read to us, it seemed to me like it never changed from Sunday to Sunday. So I was, I think, just bored. And in my boredom, I went into places inside my mind and then just realized that this was a way for me to get through the Mass kind of easily and quickly. So there is a wonderful book out there called Creative Visualization. And I know I think it's by Sanaya Roman, if I'm not mistaken. That's the author, but I could be wrong on that. But the book is called Creative Visualization. Very small, very simple little book, but gives you ki- uh, a number of good reasons why this is important. I know for me, I had to first form in my mind the idea of what I wanted to become in order for me to effectively become that. When I started my career in real estate, I literally thought that I would live and die as a real estate broker. I never envisioned something else for myself. I never thought that there was something called a soul contract that made me uh, open and receptive and uh, gave me the ability to do something else than what I loved to do at that time, which was to list and sell real estate. And not only was I listing and selling, but I was also into property management. So I also effectively had a job that kept me busy for 60 hours a week and more. And when you're working 60 hours a week and you have two small children that are growing rapidly, a house, a pet, a husband, and a business that you're taking care of, there's literally no time for anything else. And for many, many years, for about 25 years, I was very, very happy as a real estate broker. But unfortunately, that was not to be my final career. Just as happy as I was in the beginning, by degrees, I became more and more and more withdrawn. more and more and more upset, to the point where I remember going to an appointment, leaving uh, the children with my husband, going and leaving at 7 o'clock at night, and driving in the car and saying to myself, if I hear that question one more time, I think I'm going to scream. And the first words out of the mouth of the husband and wife that were sitting there when I walked in the door was that very same question. And so I think it was Spirit's way of telling me that this part of your life is over. That horrified me to the point where I basically, um, when I was told by my guides that I was to follow a different career path, specifically to teach about God, I cried convulsively. I cried hysterically. I cried to the point where Spirit understood I wasn't ready, and they backed off from what was they were telling me that I was to teach about God. I kept protesting. I'm not a minister. I'm not a minister's wife. I'm not a minister's daughter. How can I possibly teach about God? But what I didn't understand was I was not to teach about God of my fathers. I was to teach about spirituality, the God of oneness, the God that of no non-judgment, the God that accepts every path as a path to God. So I had to unlearn a lot of what I had grown up with or give it up. So, anyway, and to be able to do that for myself, I literally had to visualize the possibility of being a teacher of God. Then, when my teacher, and I did pray to God to send me a teacher to help me along this path, when my teacher saw me, she saw a healer in me. So then I had to visualize being a healer. When I recognized that I was journaling every single day from 19, I think I actually started journaling in the 70s, but from 1999, I started journaling consistently. And because for 2 months I was recuperating from a broken wrist, and fortunately it was my left hand, so therefore my right hand could still write. And when I realized that I had filled up 15 yellow pads with writing that was and was told by my guides that this was to become a book, again, uh, I then envisioned the fact I had to visualize the fact that I was a published author and a public speaker, because to after you write a book you have to promote it. And those 15 pages, 15 tablets of writing are the basis of what is in this book, which is a 20-year endeavor on my part. Own your power day by day, 365 meditations for clearing emotional, mental, and spiritual blockages in order to become your higher self. So I really want to just encourage you that if you're at a crossroads in your life where you know something else is pushing out of you to do, to have, to be a different version of yourself, I'm just know that if God led you to it, God will lead you through it. I never thought I could become a brain surgeon. I never wanted to be a nuclear physicist, but I did think eventually. that I could become a teacher and a healer of God, an author, and a public speaker. So I and I credit visualization with helping me through that process. The next technique is praying daily. Praying is does not have to be formal prayers. You do not have to have anything in your prayers that make you feel like, oh, geez, I forgot this word, or I'm rushing through, I'm doing this by rote memory. Praying is just talking to God. And who is God? God is a higher power. God does not have to take any specific form in your mind. God does not have to be anybody that you feel is a part of something or someone that you have to reject because God, or in whatever form, it was thrust upon you in such a manner that as you became older and more able to think for yourself, um, was something that you rejected. So effectively, God can just be to you anything that is outside of yourself that helps propel you through this lifetime. My understanding is that God comes to us in many, many forms. One of the forms is our angels, one of the forms is our ancestors, one of the forms is the beings in spirit that we love that have gone into spirit through death, through suicide, through anything that is um, uh, has been untimely, through drug overdose, through accidents, through illness, anything the that guides us. God can come to us in the form of ascended masters. These beings are what the Catholic Church calls saints. Again, I feel fortunate to have been raised in a Polish Catholic tradition, so it wasn't a stretch for me to understand saints, angels, the Blessed Mother, Jesus Christ. Um, but I never heard of Buddha, Krishna, or any of the yogis that are out there that are living saints. Never heard of them. And yet they very much have elevated positions in spirit, and they very much are part of the group of beings that absolutely does pay attention to us, gives us a wonderful sense of accomplishment and belonging. So praying simply means talking in my lexicon. Praying means being there with yourself. And it also, there are different ways of praying. One of the ways that Greg Braden calls the lost mode of prayer is to pray to God in gratitude for something that has already been accomplished. Most of us pray to God as supplicants. We want something, we need something, we're desperate for something. So instead of us standing in our power and saying, I'm grateful for this as an accomplished fact, when it hasn't even appeared yet, doesn't even seem like it's rational. But yet, This is what Greg Braden calls the lost mode of prayer. This is praying for what is as if it already is an accomplished fact, even when it hasn't appeared. And it's very, very interesting because the few times that I've heard of stories where this was done, and the story he talks about is when he met up with a Native American friend of his, and there had been a terrible drought in the area that he was meeting his friend. And when he met the friend, they did a little ceremony and they prayed for rain, but they prayed in gratitude of the rain that had already fallen. And lo and behold, their small area, I don't can't remember how wide it was, but I think it was in the neighborhood of about a half a mile, was deluged with water, where nothing else around that whole area received any water. And that was all because of the prayer that the Native American had made for rain that had already come, the blessing of the rain. So effectively, there's many, many ways to pray, and do not feel that in any way, shape, or form that your prayers are not heard. Your prayers are always heard. They're always answered. They just may not be answered in the form that you want them to be answered because they may be answered in a form that your higher self has deemed right for you. Your higher self is that part of you that has never left God and never left you. It's the bridge between you and God. It's that part of you that is always in contact with you, but always also mindful of its contact with God. So effectively, your higher self may realize that what you're praying for is not for your highest good and will give you something else instead. Very interesting about prayer. Again, I'm going to do a whole Facebook Live on nothing but prayer. But to go on, accepting yourself as a spiritual being, having a human experience is another way to cleanse your aura. The very first time that I heard the words, "You are not a human with a spirit, you are a spirit having a human experience," I realized that my entire world had flipped upside down. Life on this planet finally started to make sense to me because somehow before that, I all I kept thinking of is I don't think like other people. I don't act like other people. I don't feel like other people. Where did I come from? And the irony to that question is that when I was 4 years old, my earliest memory is looking up at the sky and saying to myself, "Who am I? And what is my purpose?" I didn't know the answer to those questions, but I did know I was old and I knew what old meant. So I feel that I, even as a brand new soul incarnated on this planet, already had a sense of destiny, already had a sense that I came here to do something more important than just to live, die, pursue happiness, and work, because effectively that's what I was doing as a normal career person. Anyway, accepting yourself as a spiritual being having a human experience gives you the opportunity to uncover all spiritual aspects that you haven't paid attention to before. You also recognize, even more importantly, anything is possible. Nothing is going to be denied you. You are a creator being in the same manner that you're the creator that you came from. You create with thought, you create, you create, you create. And most of the time, I once heard a statistic, and this is extremely sad, um, that 80% of what we think about is negative. So obviously, all the negative undoes any positive momentum that we have. But I also recognized that if 80% is negative of what I'm thinking, I put those thoughts in place. If I put them there, I can remove them. And I developed a little visualization technique, and I took a bank stamp that said cancel, cancel. And I put that thought in place every single time I came to a place of negativity. And there was one time where I was working very, very hard. I took maybe a week to a month working on this. And that's at the tail end of 4 or 5 years of having had nothing but negativity in my life. Um, I just got very, very tired of feeling down. And so I remember it seemed to me like every other thought I had going through my head had to have that cancel stamp put on it. But I persisted and just decided that no, I do not have to stay mired in a place of negativity, because frankly, that's all I was drawing into my life was more negativity. And we are electromagnetic beings. What we have, what we put out there is what we draw towards us. You can't stand somebody, other people will come into your life that can't stand you effectively. It's the way it works. So, um, anyway, accepting yourself as a spiritual being, having a human experience is a terrific way of cleansing the aura. The next one is goes hand in hand with this, having nurturing thoughts of love, kindness, and forgiveness. It's through love that we were created. Real power is the power of love. Every single month, I was given a dictate from my guides as to the meaning of real power. That's what introduces the month, because this is a book of my book of Own Your Power is a daily meditation. So even though it's 752 pages, it's only 1, 2, or 3 pages that you read every day. Most of them are a page, page and a half, most of them. And it's through that understanding that real power is the power of love that we recognize that that's what, when we create through love, we create that which is going to effectively not only benefit us, but benefit the rest of humanity. So nothing else is going to work. And fortunately, um, I do want to again emphasize that when I received guidance and wrote and never changed a single word, I italicized that. Every single one of the introductions to the month on real power, the power of love, doesn't have a single word changed, and about 3 or 4 meditations during the month also do not have a single word changed. So that's very, very important. But love, kindness, and forgiveness. I know in the first book that I wrote, God is the biggest joker of all. God gave me a directive and said, you come here to learn 3 things. You come to planet Earth to learn to serve your fellow man, to learn to love, and to learn to forgive. So if you're going to learn to forgive, that means, or if you have to learn to forgive, that means things are going to happen to you that you have to forgive. And again, that's another whole theme, but effectively, just know that if there are negative things in your life that are happening to you, that your soul decided that you were strong enough to be able to accept these happenings and be able to live through them and get through them and do what it was necessary to get to the next level for your soul's contract. Many, many times, uh, m- clients of mine, friends of mine, acquaintances will make comments that will say, yes, I've forgiven her or I've forgiven him, but I've never forgotten. Well, forgiving and forgetting, flip sides of one coin. Forgive for giving is the same as for getting, because you get what you give when you're working with spiritual truths, when you're working with spiritual beliefs. You get what you give. The next one for cleansing the aura, the next technique are the Reiki principles. There's 5 of them, and they appear on every single Reiki certificate that I give out. And I presume that they appear on most Reiki teachers' certificates. But the principles probably have a, they probably could use their own session, but I'm just going to go over them kind of quickly with you because we are kind of running out of time. The first principle is that I will give thanks for my many blessings. The second, that's living in an attitude of gratitude. The second, thank you, thank you, is I will not worry. There's a very important reason why you should not worry because, again, this is in the metaphysical realm. When you worry, you send thoughts of cloudiness, of grayness to the person that you're worried about. What I tell my clients is instead of worrying about something, take your heart and make a bridge of light from them to the person that you're so concerned about. And as you make this bridge of light, see the light of grace totally encompassing them. And you will feel that you have given them so much more benefit than you have if you worry about them. The next principle is I will not be angry. I absolutely love that principle because anger has followed me in my lifetime, much more than I even care to think about. But that's another whole story. The next one, I will do my work honestly. And like I said, I grew up with two parents that were scrupulously honest. So honesty is just a given in my lexicon. The last one, I will be kind to my neighbors and to every living thing. I do have um, kindness, and I love the what my daughter-in-law said of uh, her when she had her baby, and she repeats this continuously. She said his name is Maximus, and we call him Max. And she goes, I want him to be a kind person, and I can't think of a better, more loving tribute to that child. And so, and he, in every respect, he does show all kinds of uh, emphasis on kindness. The last thing the last technique for balancing and cleansing the aura, and I'm glad I left it for last because I have exactly probably 1 minute or a minute and a half to cover it, is receiving and giving Reiki treatments, ending with aura smoothing and sealing. Reiki treatments are this technique is in my Reiki 3 class, all these techniques. And like I said, I never really felt I gave them sufficient uh, uh, attention. And so now I will ask also, besides this being on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and YouTube, I'm going to ask that this be put on my website so that anybody um, who wants to review what it takes, how to cleanse the aura, will have it. And giving and receiving Reiki treatments, Reiki is a gift from God. It's energy healing. It's one of maybe 1,000 modalities out there. It's 3 bands of energy, but there are many, many, many other bands of energy. But there are 3 very powerful bands because the attunements that you get when you receive Reiki, the attunement is passed from person to person. So it's a physical attunement, and I know that as I give each attunement, I feel the Reiki strengthening inside of me. And I do know that when I was photographed once doing an attunement, I had 2 enormous bubbles around me that appeared in the photograph. One was green, one was purple. Green is always symbolic of the heart chakra, and that was the larger one. And then purple is symbolic of the crown chakra. And that was, I always feel that that's green comes through when Saint Raphael is there, and he's the patron saint of healing. And purple comes through when Saint Germain is there. And he brings his gift is the purple transformational flame. And so, and of course, purple is an absolutely favorite color of mine, as you can see by this very pretty lavender room and the purple clothes that I wear and the purple accessories that I have. But I do thank you for joining me. I do have uh, a wonderful assistant, Karina Duran.
Thank you.
That I would never be here without her because I had thought for years to do this, and it was her prompting me that enabled me to do this. And then she's the one responsible for placing everything on in every modality except my website. I have another assistant for that, and I thank her. That's Emily Doe. And I will hopefully see you next month. We'll probably do it in the middle of the month, but probably
Yes.
on a Thursday. We're
Okay.
anticipating
Yes.
doing this on Thursday rather than on Monday in the middle of the month, somewhere around
Exactly.
the 14th, 15th,
Yes.
something like that.
Around that.
All right. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you. Mhm.